Welcome to the Basics of APA Style 6th edition. This tutorial will explain how to use APA style when writing a research paper.
The first thing that you need to do when formatting your paper is first make sure that your paper is formatted to Times New Roman 12-point font. Word is automatically defaulted to Calibra 11-point font, so you do need to make the change. So all you have to do is on your home screen change the font to Times New Roman and 12-point. And this will be for the inside of your document. You will have to do it again for your header. The next step you need to do when formatting your paper is to change the paragraph line spacing to double space. Word is automatically defaulted to multiple, where you have single space in between the lines of a paragraph and then a double space in between paragraphs. So you need to change this. To do this, all you have to do is where you see paragraph, click on the little down arrow here and you'll see 2, and that will double space the entire paper. So that's what you need to do for this step. Next, you need to make sure you have a margin of 1 inch on all sides. Word is defaulted to this, so do not change it. There are a few other points that you must consider when formatting the paper. First, remember to indent the first line of each paragraph using the Tab key. Next, the text should be flush only to the left side of the page. Do not justify or center the text. Finally, it is recommended to space twice after the punctuation at the end of the sentence. This is about readability. I realize that the rule that you may have been taught in the past is to only space once. It is okay if that is more comfortable for you to only space once. The main point is to be consistent, either space once or twice. APA 6th edition requires a page header as part of the setup of the paper. The page header must be included at the top of every page. This includes a shortened form of the title of the paper on the left side of the page and the page number on the right. The shortened title should appear in all caps and be no longer than 50 characters. Always use Word to create the header. The key when creating the header is to make sure to check the box for a different first page in Word. So let's go through the steps of creating a header using Word. To create a header, the first thing you do is first go to the second page. So just hit enter until you reach the second page. This is just a little quirk that makes it work better by starting on the second page. So after I get to the second page, I need to click on Insert and then click on Page Number, Top of Page, and Plain Number 3. This is because I need a page number that counts, and if I don't choose page number, I will not have a page number that counts. So I have the page number 2 counting down on the right hand side of the screen as instructed in APA. Then I'm going to type my header. It's supposed to be somewhere in 50 characters, all caps, and so for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to type education. Then I'm going to tap on the Tab key twice to bring it all the way over to the left side of the screen. After I do this, I need to do 2 things before I close the header. First, I need to choose Different First Page. Then I need to select all the text, come back to Home, and choose Times New Roman 12-point font. This is because Word automatically defaults to Calibra 11-point font and APA requires 12-point Times New Roman. So after I've done that, I can click down where the main part of the body of the paper is, move my cursor back to the top of the page. Once I've gotten in page 1, I can just click on Insert again. I'm going to repeat the process. Insert, page number, top of page, plain number 3, and then this time I need to type running head before I type my header. And then I type my header in all caps. And then I'm going to hit Tab key twice again to bring it over to the left hand side of the screen. And before I close the header, I need again make sure I select, change the font to Times New Roman, 12-point font, and I can close the header and I'm done. The title page always includes the following: a header with a running head and page number, which we just looked at how to do, the title of the paper, the author's byline, and the institutional affiliation. Sometimes the professor may require something else, but usually does not. Points to point out when creating the title page are the following. First, the date is nowhere on the page. Second, do not include your professor's name. The only name that you see on the title page is yours. Do not include the word by in the author's byline. It is your name. That's it. The actual title of your paper will always be longer than the title you use as part of your header. Make your title interesting. And when I created the example, I double spaced twice before typing the title.
Sometimes when writing a research paper, it is helpful to use headings to provide transition and clarity to the reader. When creating headings in your paper, it is important to recognize the different levels of headings. An easy way to think about the different levels is to think of it like an outline. Level 1 headings are for Roman numerals. Level 2s would be as if you're doing your A's and B's. Level 3 would be your 1s and 2s on your A's and B's, and so on. Headings are not used in all papers. They are always used in writing research papers and journal articles. Also, it is not yet necessary to use all levels of headings. You may just use the first 2 or 3. So let's look at an example. So this is an example of how to do headings from the APA Style blog. You can find more information at the link that is at the bottom of the screen. It just shows you where literature review would be a level 1. Your participants is a level 2, and then procedure is also a level 2, and then you'll see recruitment, and it would be a level 3, and so on as you go about using headings in your presentation. When using ideas or words from another source, whether quoted or paraphrased, you must give credit to the author or authors of the source. This is called in-text citations. Credit can be given in one of two ways. You could have a parenthetical citation followed by the quoted material or paraphrased material, or by directly mentioning the author and year in the text in conjunction with the quoted or paraphrased material. So let's look at each one of these. The first type of citation is the parenthetical citation. For a parenthetical citation, you are to list the following at the end of the sentence: the author's last name, year of publication, and page number separated by commas. Now, you only include the page number if it's a direct quote. If it's not a direct quote, then it's just going to be the author's last name and the year. And a period always follows the citation. So this is our example: Bandura, 1986, P period 425. That's the page number. Close your parentheses and then period. The two things I see people mess up the most is the period after the P and the period at the end of the sentence. It always goes after the parentheses. It does not go before. For an in-text citation, the year of publication is always mentioned in conjunction with the author's name as follows. The year follows the author, but the page number follows the quotation. Example: Bandura 1986. The 1986 in parentheses is the year the article was written. It immediately follows the author. And then the page number for the direct quote is at the end of the sentence. Now notice the period for the sentence is still after the parentheses. It is suggested to use both types of citations in your writing. You do not have to choose which one. Just mix it. Using some in-text citations can add strength to your writing. When you have an article that's written by 3 or more authors, the rule is the first time you mention the article in your paper, you are to list all of the authors. The second time, you can shorten it in the in-text citation. In other words, you can do Bandura et al. To represent everyone else except for the first one. And the same thing if you're doing an in-text citation, you can do the same thing if you're including the author's name in the sentence. You may come across a situation where you'd like to quote or paraphrase a source as cited in another source. The rule is you're to attempt to find the original source and use it, but sometimes you can't. For those situations, use the original source author in the sentence, but then in parentheses at the end of the sentence state as cited in the secondary source. In this case, it's the secondary source that is listed at the end of the paper, not the original. There may be some cases where you're citing something that has an acronym. It's a much shorter way to state the company or organization or government agency. The rule is the first time you state it in the paragraph or cite it, you are to write the entire thing. For example, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. And then in brackets, right behind it, put the shortened form and then finish the citation or finish the sentence. The second time you use it in the sentence, then you can use the shortened form. If you want to cite something that does not have a date of publication, then you are to put N period D period in place of the date. You are to do this in the in-text citation and at the end of the paper in the list of resources. This usually only happens for websites or textbooks written by Glencoe and McGraw-Hill. These are a few final things to remember when writing in-text citations. You only include the page number when citing from a direct quote. If you're just paraphrasing, you do not have to include the page number. If a quote has been taken from one or more pages of text, write PP period instead of P period in the citation. Electronic sources are treated just the same way as print resources. However, if it does not have pages, you are to count paragraphs if you're doing a direct quote. For example, Wilmuth 2010, para for paragraph 9. If the non-paginated document is especially very lengthy, it's probably going to have headers in it, and you can cite from the header. For example, Wilmuth 2010, discussion, para 1. So that way you don't have to count as much. The final part of the paper you must create is your reference page. You must start the reference page list at a new page. You type references in the center of the page, not works cited, not bibliography, it's references. It is not in bold type. It's just plain references. Any source that is cited within the text must appear in the reference list. Likewise, each reference entry in the reference list must have an in-text citation somewhere in the text. So this is an example of a reference list. You still have your headings like you had on the rest of your paper, references in the center of the top line, and then your entries are alphabetized according to the first author's last name. Then you go according to year the article was written. You must give a hanging indent as part of each reference. You do this by going into the paragraph settings of Word, and it'll help you do that. Do not try to do these references as part of the reference maker that is part of Word. It always messes it up, and style guides change, and Word does not always update to be able to do this. So before we start looking at specific reference examples, let's look at a few rules you need to consider. You still double space everything, and all reference entries are alphabetized. Use the hang indent. This is where you are to space once after punctuation. You do this in all parts of the references. You space once after initials of people's names. This is something that people like to mess up. Always use italics instead of underlining. Do not italicize punctuation that is not part of the actual title. And remember, if a source does not have a date, use N period D period in both the reference list and in the in-text citation. This is an example of a basic book formatted APA citation. You always start with the author's last name, comma, then the author's initials. Make sure to space once in between each. In parentheses, then you'll have the publication year, the title of the book. The main thing to remember here is you only capitalize the first word of the title, the first word of the subtitle, and any proper nouns or adjectives. And then you're going to have the publication city and publication state, or publication city and publication country. You must have both. You cannot leave one out. And then you're going to have the publisher. Let's look at the basic journal article reference entry. The author is done just like it is in a book. You're always going to have the publication year in parentheses period. This is where it differs from using a book. You are to have the title of the article. The rule for the title of the article follows the rule that you did with the book. You only capitalize the first word of the title, the first word of the subtitle, and any proper nouns or adjectives. Then you're going to have the title of the publication. You are to capitalize all the words except for your minor words like of in the title of the journal. Then you'll have the volume number and the issue number. Now the title of the journal and the volume number are italicized. The issue number is not. Then you will have the page number for the journal article. And then you end it with a period. Some articles will have an electronic DOI number at the end of it. The DOI number is just a number you can stick in a special search engine that'll find this article electronically on the web. Not all journal articles have a DOI number. If it does have one, it is to be included as part of the reference. It goes at the end, and there is no period following it at the end of the reference. If there's not a DOI number, then you do not have to include it and you don't have to worry about it. The only journal articles that will have a URL at the end of them are journals that are housed not in the database. These are journals that are housed on like university websites. They will have a link that you are to place as part of the reference entry, and you'll put retrieve from and then the link. But if you're getting it from the database, you do not have to do this. If you're getting it off of Google and it's taking you to a link, then it's found at like some university website for your journal article, then yes, you have to have the link. This is an example of an APA citation for a website. You have whoever wrote the article first. It may be a group. If it's usually a group, then usually that goes after the title. For example, this is one where you have the title first because it was a group that wrote it and not an individual. So this also didn't have a date, so that's why I have the N period, D period. So if it's a group, then you'll have the group that wrote it afterwards, and then you'll have the link retrieve from and the link that'll take it to you to the actual article you're using. More examples of APA can be found at the Purdue OWL website. Also, I have a handout, and this is the link that'll take you to the handout I have on APA that just gives some outline and some other examples. If you have any questions or you'd like me to review something on APA, feel free to email me at kfarmer10@murraystate.edu for any questions.